Phoebe on, but just so everyone knows that this meeting is being recorded. By recording it, it enables us to make it available to the public after the fact. In addition, there is a posting on the website, the township website, on the calendar, so that anyone from the public actually can go on there, see that, and connect to this meeting. There aren't any restrictions like that. And it is, in times like this, it actually is compliant with the Sunshine Law and the requirement for open and public meetings. Now I see John
Phoebe
McKee joining us, which is good.
Phoebe is muted. I wonder if she doesn't know how to unmute it, or?
Well, I'm actually seeing, yeah, it's a little different than the unmute symbol. Hey, John, thanks for calling in.
Not a problem. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. Hey, Phoebe. Oh, no, now I don't know what's happened there.
She must be on the phone.
Could
It's
be.
*6 or *9 to unmute on the phone, Phoebe, if you could hear me. Stuck her hand out.
Do you want to send her a chat, Jim, to see if you can help her get whatever issues resolved?
Let's see if I can unmute her. You can't unmute her.
How about
Hey,
now?
Yeah,
Phoebe,
there
there?
we got you, Phoebe.
Oh, finally, I found it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. All right, well, we are a few minutes late, but I was expecting that. These technology issues are often seem to crop up at work as well. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, 6:34. Thanks everyone for calling in. John, it's a pleasure to have you here. You don't usually see you at our EAC meetings.
Yeah, it's tough to get to everything, but you know,
I know.
it works out well.
Yeah, well, we've all got a little more time now, in theory. So the first thing I wanted to address was the meeting minutes from the February meeting. I had sent those around for review and approval. I don't know if there are any comments from anyone who was in attendance at that meeting. So I would if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as they are.
I approve.
Second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Great.
Sorry, Bill, I didn't even see you were on. Now I see.
And then the next thing I wanted to turn to is back on the 15th of April, there was a webinar on stormwater management. Phoebe, I think you had sent around probably the notification about that. Did anyone have who had a chance to attend that or join into that?
You know, I planned on going, but I lost track of what day it was and missed it.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I wanted to attend, and then when I went to register, registration was closed. So I missed it. Corey, were you able to attend by any chance?
No, I was not.
Oh, darned it. So nobody was able to attend. That's too bad.
No,
Did
you know what?
anyone-
I tried too and it was closed. No, I'm just kidding.
Did anyone register for it, and is there a recording of it? Because I know Penn State does that with a lot of their online informational sessions if you're unable to attend after you register.
Let's see.
I can check and find out. I don't know.
Yeah. So Phoebe, if you registered, yeah, you might be able to access a recording.
I'll check on that and find out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Phoebe, if you're not able to, I can check with Megan from Penn State Extension, and usually she can get access to those as well. So between the two of us, hopefully somebody can get access to it.
That would be good, yes. Okay, great. And then there were a couple of other things. Next item on the agenda was we had a while ago we had talked about doing some live staking. And actually, I had mentioned on the agenda, live staking at Kenilworth. But actually, I think we were talking, Corey, we were talking about doing that along Bickle Run. Taking a look along there to see, before anything happens to that property, what we could do to stabilize the stream bank along Bickle Run.
Right. So Bickle Run is the one that runs behind kind of McCormick Chiropractic, goes through all the way down to Ed Culp's property, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I walked that stream probably about a month ago now, from McCormick all the way down to where that joins Ed Culp's property. It's in pretty rough shape in terms of the bank quality. There's definitely a lot of erosion, a lot of meandering stream channels, and I think live staking could have a pretty big benefit in there. The only challenge would be it would probably require a lot of live stakes. And I would say that the most beneficial section for live stakes would be the section that is, I guess, east of Kime Street, so between Kime Street and Miller Road. The area above that, so like up towards McCormick Chiropractic, especially when it runs through the North Coventry property, kind of adjacent to that access lane that runs back there. There's some minor erosion, but the banks are not nearly as steep. The stream bed is a little bit wider and it has a little bit better access to the floodplain, and so it's not down cutting quite as much. That area would probably be a low priority. It's also a little bit difficult to get to just because there's a lot of brush and stuff in there.
Okay.
But the section down east of Kime Street is relatively easy to get to off of Kime Street. For the most part, it's pretty open down there. But up on the upper part of the property, closer to McCormick's place, across the North Coventry School, there are a bunch of red osier dogwoods in there. So I think any kind of live stake supply that we would want, we could very easily get on site. So we wouldn't have to get them off site. It would probably take a couple of hours of cutting, putting them in buckets, and then you could just drive them down to the lower part of Bickle Run down there.
Okay. Yeah, that's very encouraging. What would you recommend in terms of the best time to do that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a little late for the ideal time. The best time is typically like early March, or maybe the end of March. I mean, you could do something now. Your success level might not be quite as high. Anytime like the leaf buds break, the plant's going to be requiring a lot more water and a lot more nutrients. And since it doesn't have like the growth of root sprouts or anything yet, their survival does decline if you install them like now. November is not a bad time. So after the leaves fall, you can put them in then, because there's usually a lot of nutrients stored in those systems getting ready for the winter. And then, of course, the best time of the year is March, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a comment on that. The area east of Kime Street on Bickle Run is an area that the township is targeting to do stream bank restoration as part of our sediment reduction plan.
Oh, good.
So I would say maybe I don't want to see do work that's going to get
right.
So we're working with permitting right now and plans for that. So
awesome.
An area we're targeting, and I can't say it's going to be this year, but we have 5 years to get a sediment reduction, and that's a targeted area. So I don't,
Yeah, that's a good area. It's kind of an ideal area to do the restoration. Maybe it actually might be beneficial. I don't know if you have designs or anything in hand yet for that, or have any thoughts. But typically with most stream bank restorations, towards the end of them, once all the grading and shaping is done and the channel work is done, typically they do a live stake planting in areas that have been recreated and reshaped just to help stabilize the banks. That might be something, once the work is actually done, we might be able to get volunteers out there to do some of the cuttings, and then to do the actual live staking work there. Just, probably cut down on cost a little bit.
Yeah, LTL right now, I guess they're in the permitting phase and they're limited with their staff because
Right.
what everyone's going through. So part of the they would have to come up with plans. So I met with Ed Ladshaw a few weeks ago, and the process is starting. So don't know when it will be complete, but it's
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is not quick, especially they're probably going to have to going through DEP to get a permit. Maybe the Army Corps, depending on, it might be the Army Corps too. I know we've done a lot of those permits, and they're definitely it's not an expedited process. For sure.
I know west of that area, when we walked stream banks, that wasn't a targeted area for us to do any work in. So I'd say
Right.
west of that, you'd be clear and good to go.
Right. Well, we had talked about Kenilworth Park too, and so I actually went down there this afternoon and took a couple pictures. I don't know if you guys want, I can go through some of the photos on my screen. You want me to try that? Share my screen with you guys and see if we can view the photos together?
Yeah,
sure.
that would be good.
Sure.
That's, yeah.
Let's try that and see if that works. Try it.
Well, that's great, Corey. One of the things I wanted to do was encourage everybody to get down there and have a look, because it's, yeah, wow.
But look at that rusty pipe sticking out the side.
Yeah. All right. So this is the beginning kind of. So I started down near maybe 100 yards from 724, and it wasn't. It was actually pretty nice down there. So this is kind of the bottom of that reach. A lot of riffles and pools. The banks are pretty stable. Overall, this stream is pretty in size throughout. My guess is back in the 20s or 30s, it used to be agricultural fields, and somebody took a backhoe and just kind of made a straight ditch to get it out of there as quick as possible, which has led to a little bit of incision and a lot of stream bank erosion. The lower section looks pretty good. The stream banks down there are actually pretty well healed over. As you move upstream, it gets worse. You kind of see that stream as straight as an arrow, which is kind of an indication that there might have been some ditching and straightening over time. So yeah, so here's just a bad section. You see deer actually coming down here. Battery's low. Hold on 1 second. Let me grab a power plug.
I think that used to be a par 3 golf course, wasn't it?
Which area?
This area that he's showing.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It used to be a golf course. This is kind of adjacent to the Frisbee golf course. So looking upstream here to the left in this photo, there's like a pond with a bunch of cattails in it, and just on the other side of that pond is the Frisbee golf course. Yeah, moving upstream, I thought the old pipe was kind of interesting, just kind of showing how much either the stream is down cut or how much the channel has moved over time. Again, just kind of moving upstream still, a lot of pretty badly eroding stream banks, some old debris that we could probably pull out of there in the same kind of effort. And then this is up at the Frisbee golf course, like looking where my arrow is here on the left is part of the disc golf course. The pond would be right on the left here. So this is just below the bridge. Some bad bank erosion down through here.
Undercut.
And then, once you get above that bridge, this is standing on the bridge on the trail that goes over to the disc golf course. It looked like there was bad erosion at one point, but it's all gabion baskets now and stone filled in behind that. So there's no active bank erosion up there. But downstream of that, I would say we could have, there's a turtle that was there too. Downstream of that, we could probably have a pretty big influence by doing some live staking down through here. And there are red osier dogwood, and there's some willow species in that wetland. And there's also a large willow along the pond. I didn't see what species it was, so I don't know if it's a native species or not. But we could get down there some point and identify the species to make sure it is native and use cuttings from that as well. but I think we could probably get everything that we would need to do a live stake planting on site here also.
John, is there anything that's planned for that currently as part of our mitigation efforts?
Not at the time. There was talk about it, but downstream farther towards 724, there's an existing sanitary line. So as far as engineering, that wasn't done to see if, if that was impacting. For us to get credit, we have to do both sides of the stream bank. So it's just right now, kind of the things we're looking at. We're looking at ease of work, how easily can it be done, benefit that we get, credit that we get, cost, if possible, how much work the township can do themselves, because it's very expensive. Our estimates very expensive over the next couple of years. So we're, trying to look for projects that meet the need, that we can take on ourselves, and we get, more bang for our buck money-wise.
Right.
Okay.
So I know one of the Delaware County municipalities did a live stake planting for MS4 credit reduction. And they did it wasn't even big. It was 160 feet on both sides of the stream with maybe a few hundred live stakes. And they got, they didn't have a huge reduction that was required, but I think that live staking project alone got them the credit they needed for their 5-year reduction.
Yeah, I don't know our reduction offhand, but we're targeting maybe 5 projects right now to meet that requirement. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to do a live staking down at Kenilworth, it's very possible, that type of project, we could work with Ed Latchall and see if they want to include that in the MS4 permit. And we might be able to get some extra reduction credit for that.
Yeah.
It's a similar project.
The riparian buffers and things like that, the input they gave, what they gave us back, the reporting, we got very little credit for that. Stream bank restoration seemed to be the go-to project. Unfortunately, they don't give much credit for armoring the riprap, which stuff along Kenilworth, you would have no choice but to armor. So
right.
All right, but I mean, I think it may not give us a lot of credit, but every little bit would certainly help.
Yeah.
And then kind of on a related topic, and this is something that Patty brought up to me, I think it's been discussed at the Parks and Rec Commission, is if you look, so Corey, right where that bridge comes over Kenilworth, you were standing there and looking, back up the creek, and then to the left where the disc golf course is, the trail right through there it's a mess. I mean, it's really badly eroded. You're getting a lot of sediment running right down that hill and into the creek. And Patty can speak to it too. I mean, I know there's been discussions at Parks and Rec about what can we do to lessen, and lessen the erosion along those trails, because they get a ton of traffic with disc golf and just walkers and hikers. I know, Patty, is there anything you want to add as far as what Parks and Rec has been talking about?
Actually, Parks and Rec has been talking about the issue, but there have not been any solutions. So if the EAC has suggestions, it would be all ears.
Okay.
I guess one of the challenges, so I know we've done projects similar, in a similar situation to that, and what we did is get like a 2x6 probably, or really even like a 1x6, and get rebar and kind of use rebar along the trail and stabilize these 2x6s in there, kind of outline the trail, and then you put a little bit of mulch down. And it's only for your biggest problem areas, the areas that would be closest to the stream, the areas that have the most active erosion. But you could kind of do that. You could fill it up with mulch a little bit. You'd have to get a little bit of a pickaxe to usually dig in 2 or 3 inches, so you could actually set the board itself in the ground and then use the rebar to stabilize it. But it does help to one, identify that there is a solid trail people can walk on. And 2, just with the actual wood itself and a little bit of wood chips on top of it, just kind of prevents that sediment from going down into the stream.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I know that's something that certainly I've thought about, and I think we may have talked about in the past that, even just putting down, wood chips or mulch, just anything, so it's not just the bare mud that they're walking across and stirring up. So I guess that's certainly one option. I mean, if we came up with a plan like that, something really concrete as far as, where along that trail, that would certainly be good. I don't know, John, do you see that as something that potentially your guys on the road crew could work on? I'm not saying not this week or whatever, but down the road.
I mean, I think it would be wise to walk it. I don't know if that's the answer, just because the problem starts upstream of that. So there's really no stabilization upstream. So I'd just be concerned that any water running down that hill would wash the mulch. I think, in my opinion, what needs to happen is there's a lot of dead stuff in there. I think you open the canopy up and you maybe try to seed it with a shade mix.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get enough growth in there, but I think you really need to get growth in that area to help.
Would native grasses work in there if we were to take and concentrate on the native undergrowth of grasses and undervining and put them along the edges? Would that help?
I just think because the problem starts uphill and this is at the bottom of the hill, that unless you stabilize up above, you're going to lose what's down below.
Part of the problem to keep in mind is that the golfers don't stay on the paths.
Yeah.
So wherever the disc goes is where the foot traffic goes. So whatever we do would have to be, with trying plantings would have to be very durable. And I don't know that that's possible under a shaded canopy.
Well, we used no-mow with pretty good success in the area behind the baseball field at Kenilworth. That came really well. The problem is, to do it, they have to stay off of it until it's stabilized. They can't.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, God, that area gets so much traffic. I mean, if we can go down there sometime and have a look at, the trail and look at that slope going up. And I guarantee if you're there for more than 5 minutes, you're going to see a bunch of disc golfers. And I imagine it's probably gotten worse in the last month in terms of, or better, depending on your outlook, more traffic there. I mean,
it's well used.
It's very well used. It's one of the most popular, maybe the most popular feature in any of our parks.
I think what we could probably do is thin out the canopy a little bit and plant a bunch of Japanese stilt grass, and that would work really well.
Oh, stop it, Corey. It would probably take over. It takes over everywhere very easily. We're not going to include that in the meeting minutes. Yeah,
Some ailanthus trees would be nice too.
Yeah, a couple of those for shade.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Contribution.
Anything else from China?
Okay, well, those are some good ideas. I guess what I would suggest is I would really urge everyone to get out to Kenilworth and have a look around there. So it's, kind of from the area right by the little fishing pond, go across the bridge and just look up that hill. That's where, there are, at least four disc golf, holes or baskets up in that wooded area, and then it goes out into the open. But it's that wooded area that we're talking about it's just eroded, muddy, and the trail at the bottom is in really bad shape. So any ideas are welcome. And, obviously, John, will work with you trying to figure out, what can we do, what makes sense there. Even just to, not so much just for improving the stream water quality per se, but just so that trail isn't such a mess. Certainly there are other things we need to address in Kenilworth Creek, but But you know, that's just sort of a problem for the park as well as the creek. All right. One other thing I wanted to touch on is I know several of you have been working on the native plant list for the township. I'm not sure where we left it last. I know Corey, you had sent around a pretty good list, and I think Justin, you were making some edits and changes to it.
We were waiting for Phoebe's list to be completed. She wanted to wait until she was finished with it before she gave it to us for Jesse to add and add on to it. So we have not seen Phoebe's list, so we were waiting on her completed list. Last meeting we had, she was going away on a little vacation.
Little.
We thought it'd be, several weeks before maybe we got that list so we could go over it, but we haven't heard anything back yet. Phoebe, are you there?
Okay, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And I did finish it. And actually I was going to send that out to you and Corey. I'll do it tomorrow. Actually, what I'll do is I'll post it on the Gmail G Drive there tomorrow. It is what it is. It's a spreadsheet that has all of the natives for Chester County. So you'll see, like I looked at the list that Corey was updating, and where it'll say that, for example, there's a one of the dogwoods. It'll have specific cultivars that are native to Chester County. So I will get that to you guys tomorrow.
So your list does specify if they're cultivars or not?
Yes.
Okay. Am I not thinking about it right, that cultivars are not native? They're always, hybrids with something else?
They can be native, because what it is they're natural crosses. So
Okay.
yes, they can be native.
So Phoebe, is your list, so is that for like woody species and herbaceous species, or is it mostly woody tree species?
Everything.
Everything, okay, wow.
So we've got grasses and trees and, the shrubs and flowers. I mean, why it took me so long. It's got a lot of stuff on it.
Cool. Excellent. Great. Well, thank you. Look forward to seeing that and continuing to move that forward. I mean, obviously, the goal ultimately, Jim, would be for us to have a recommended list of native plants that would be incorporated into an ordinance, so that these are the sort of the recommended or approved plants to use for landscaping. And then one of the things that I was actually talking to Patty about was an idea of doing like a native plants demo garden or demo area at Hanover Meadows. Now this would not be the meadow area, but rather just somewhere along the trail. That would be one designated area, containing a bunch of native plants. Just to point out, we'd need some signage for it as well, but just basically to point out, these are all plants native to this area. These are the sorts of plants you should be using in your landscaping, and just increase awareness and encourage people to use those plants instead. And so I don't know if Phoebe, if that's something, through your other work that you've done in terms of as a master gardener, if that's a sort of thing that you might be able to help coordinate.
Yeah, I think I can. That's something that I think we can work on. I know Patty's worked with Carol, who's one of the master gardeners that I work with, and that's one of the things that she does. So sure, I think that's a great idea.
All right, and then obviously John will talk to you and try to think of where's the some places that we think that would really be good for this, because the whole point is to make it so that people can see it as they're walking the trail, but not to add any you know, not to make it harder for you to maintain the area as well.
You could
So,
actually do several areas to show them the different full sun location versus part shade location. That way they get an idea of almost anywhere in their yard they can incorporate natives in a much more ecological friendly way, and it will be very little maintenance because they're already native.
mhm.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
Good idea.
I thought the whole plan at the park would be nothing but natives. Has there been any plans to bring in non-natives for, I don't know, ornamental reasons or other reasons? Or
Well, no, we're talking, I'm thinking, Justin, more of a specific area that would have a number of different kinds of plants just for people to see along with signage. So it's educational and informative, you know, about native plants specifically. As far as all the plantings that are there, I'd defer to John about what all was planted there.
I can't say offhand. There's tons of plantings there. I'm not a plant guy, a tree guy, so I don't want to. Best thing, you know, there's civil plans with landscaping plans that designate all the plantings. I think, John, you might have that. I think I
Yeah, you sent that to me.
So that landscape plan would have everything in there.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about, you know, the different, and actually the landscape plan is, I believe I posted that onto the Google Drive for everyone to see. So you all should have access to that. And I'm trying to think of, you know, kind of think of the areas at Hanover Meadows, and I don't know that there are really any along the trail that are not in pretty much full sun. And it's pretty wide open there.
The only area would be the south portion of the trail that's kind of towards the wetland and 100. That's kind of get some shade in there.
Okay. Yeah, I guess there are some trees back there. That's right.
More or less the only area that I can think of.
Yeah, but yeah, for the most part, it is out there and it's wide open.
It looks like there's a lot of opportunity there to put in a rain garden too, to show people how they can help mitigate their stormwater on their property.
Right.
We have 4 now currently, yeah.
not just the drainage ditches, but there are banks and little swallows. Like when you first pull into the park, the trail off to the left that goes along Hanover, there's some prime great spots to put a lot of plantings to soak up a lot of water and not have those standing pools outside of the little ponds that already exist.
And then have the signage to point it out, yeah.
And the rain gardens right now are they're in redesign mode, or there's getting redesigned. So that's between our engineer and the county conservation district right now, which we've been struggling because county conservation is currently closed. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to know. And correct me if I'm wrong, and Patty will know this, but I do believe that Parks and Rec actually, they put up several little kiosks, informational kiosks, and I think one of them was for a rain garden.
There's at least 2, but they're blank. There's nothing in them. I was up there yesterday or the day before.
Right.
Yeah, one is going to be to identify the meadows, one to identify wetlands, and then Vince was working on the third one to identify rain gardens. But they have not been approved or chosen. The kiosks are ready, the signage is in the works.
Right. So there's no content, but the signage is there, or ready to, I guess, ready to go to put in the informational content.
I think having a rain garden area would be extremely beneficial, since our new plans for permitting development calls for rain gardens, whether it's a swampy area of home ownership or if it's on the plot itself. So the focus in the township is more on rain gardens. So that's a good idea.
Mhm. All right, so John, you said it's
I mean,
under redesign currently. I mean, I guess, yeah, I'd be, if, as those plans, even not being finalized, but even just as they're getting drafted, if you could share those with us, that would be really helpful. And if we'll certainly try to provide any input and support that we can.
Yeah, I mean, more or less, if you look at, again, the landscaping plant, the landscape drawing, I think they have all the plannings for those rain gardens, the landscape
Okay.
drawing. So I think you have that information. I don't, right now it's between LTL and Chester County Conservation District. So what's going to happen there? I can't really, speak right now because
Right. No, understood. But I mean, as that redesign happens, yeah, just kind of keep us posted, I guess, is my only request.
All right.
All right. And then one agenda item I wanted to go over is, we've talked within the EAC in the past about, putting together sort of educational workshops. And Justin, we had talked about, you guys doing a presentation at the ribbon cutting for Hanover Meadows, which was going to be on May 2nd. That has now been postponed. So it's going to happen. It's just not going to happen on May 2nd, but I think we'd still be interested in getting that there. But so that aside, obviously we can't do any of those sort of public events. But I was thinking about, I mean, I think all of us have probably seen the number of different webinars that have been ongoing, and thinking about if any of us have sort of a presentation, sort of ready to go, an educational, environmental education sort of presentation, even just, 20 minutes, half an hour or longer, that we could potentially think about setting up as, a virtual seminar, a webinar. So I don't know.
I got you. I got one for you right now, John. Jesse, 2 weeks ago for our Chester County Beekeepers Association gave an excellent presentation on native plants. Slide PowerPoint presentation, Google Slides, and it was really well done. Our club recorded it for the members who couldn't attend and posted it. We could set up another one, where we could have interaction with township residents, or I could also check with our club president and see if he has that file that he could send me. Could trim it to cut out the beginning beekeeping association stuff and just have it be the presentation. I thought it was well done and right up the alley of what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, is it something, even if you could get for us even just the slide so we could at least see a sneak preview of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can post
when
that
we go
on
inside here, I'll try to, before the meeting's over, my plan is to get this bee stuff in the car and go inside, bring up that landscape design drawing just to take a look and give possible 2 cents. And because all we can really do is advise and recommend to the plans that are there. The plans are already kind of set correct for the park, and then we can look at it and suggest this or that, but there's kind of a contract in the works, correct?
Right. Yeah, there is. But yeah, if you can, so the slides that you have from this presentation that you're talking about, if you can share those, and then, yeah, look into whether we can either use the recording or have whomever presented just do that again, and we would advertise it, through the township, just as a educational opportunity.
Sure. Jessie loves talking about native plants, and I'm sure she'd be happy to do it again if you want, or we can clip the.
Oh, that's very nice of you to volunteer her to do that, Justin.
I'm good for it.
Cool. Anyone else?
So I have one on it's kind of the history or like the rise of the conservation movement in America, and then directly related to the Clean Water Act and moving into stormwater at MS4. I gave it to the Master Watershed Stewards maybe a month ago or so. It was the week before we kind of got put on quarantine.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have that. I would probably modify it if we were to do it for the township. It was about 45 minutes long.
Mhm.
I could cut out quite a bit of the more technical stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. That actually sounds like it would be, in fact, a kind of a almost ideal sort of introductory, set the stage for a series of those.
Right.
So yeah, I would be very interested in that, Corey. I mean, if you want to, maybe edit that down and to what you think would be good for a lay audience, something with broad appeal, and then, again, share it with us, and we can, look at when we could do that. And I think the idea for both of these, or for any of these, my idea was, to sort of strike while the iron's hot. Everybody's in lockdown mode, and I think looking for interaction like this, it would probably be an ideal time, to get hopefully a decent online audience to attend.
Right.
John, we could also we can also record it and then post it on Facebook and township website, and go towards our compliance for MS4.
Yeah, that's right. It does. The educational piece does that. Yeah.
I love the idea of having it available for everybody whenever. That way, people's schedules, work schedules, this and that, they can view it whenever they want and share it with other people.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
What did you say it was? It was a history of the conservation movement?
Yeah, so it was kind of, to the overall goal of it was like building to kind of see, okay, here's how we got to where we are today in terms of stormwater management and the Clean Water Act. So I started all the way back, very briefly in 1600, some of the original conservation laws that were passed, and kind of quickly came through the 1800s and highlighted a couple of the pioneers of the conservation movement, and especially in the 50s and 60s and 70s, highlighted just some of the things that happened at the Cuyahoga River fire, the Santa Barbara, I think it was, oil spill, Rachel Carson Silent Spring, a couple of the big events that kind of really spurred the modern conservation movement, and then tied that into how that kind of led to the Clean Water Act, how the Clean Water Act has evolved, and then how that's impacting municipalities today.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great.
I have to give one on stream ecology next week, so I'm in the process of making that.
Okay.
And some point in April or May, probably I guess May now, I'll do one on watershed landscapes, so how our actions on the landscape impact water quality and stream condition. They're all for the Penn State Extension program, so they would be relatively easy to modify for a more general audience.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, so both Justin and or Jesse, whomever, and Corey, if you want, start working on those presentations, and yeah, let's take a look and start thinking about when we can do those and how. And Jim, I don't know if a forum like a Zoom meeting would be best, or if there might be some other format, that would be conducive to that.
But right now, that'd probably be the best way to do it. Certainly the easiest way that I'm aware of right now. Okay. No, it sounds, I mean, it works pretty well, when you can share the screen and show your slides, as well as have the video of, the presenter, if the presenter wants to be on camera. Okay, great.
Do something with the amphibians too, but right now I'm just trying to teach myself Google Classroom and how to teach my students virtually. But I'm sure that would be pretty easy. I've done enough real discussions on the amphibians and the migration and what goes on around here. Okay. Just give me some time.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, like I said, as much as possible, I'd like to get a couple of these out there, while everyone is still sort of a captive audience, so to speak. It might be a good way to get a good kickstart to it. But yeah, I mean, the idea is, we had been talking about doing this, more than a year ago, thinking of doing it as live events. And I'm just thinking, well, we could still do that. We can still bring that forward, but as a virtual event instead at this time. And then hopefully eventually we can get back to doing, the public events, like the ribbon cutting or like the Coventry Woods Festival, which also, in case you guys hadn't heard, has been postponed. So yeah, Kim, I mean, anything you can pull together would be great.
Okay.
Do you want me to make some kind of presentation up on honeybees and the more important native pollinators also, and what homeowners can do to help out native pollinators? Or
yeah, absolutely, Justin.
Kim or anybody, I can help you with the Zoom side of it if you need any help or have questions. The township has the pays for the unlimited Zoom, so you can get on and record for 24 hours if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, like Corey did when he showed the pictures, I don't know how to do things like that. So
yeah, I can help you through that. It's real easy. We can meet one-on-one through Zoom, and I can show you. You can play with it.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right. One thing I wanted to mention, I forwarded an email to everyone on the EAC about the EAC Network Conference. I sent that around this afternoon, or I think it was this afternoon, that's coming up on, I think, May 2nd and 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. That's, well, just what it sounds like. It's a conference of other EAC members. It's got a number of workshops. It's, actually covers a pretty broad range of topics. It's obviously a virtual seminar, and it's taking, I think, the better part of 2 days, or at least a good day and a half. It does have a registration fee associated with it, but anyone who's interested, I would certainly encourage you to, take a look at that email I sent, see if it's something you're interested in, you want to register for, and we can certainly put a request into the Board of Supervisors, for, to get reimbursed for that $20 registration fee. So I wanted to mention that. And then one last thing I had on the agenda, on my mind, is I got an email from Jay Erb, the chair of Parks and Rec, about a patch in Coventry Woods. If for those of you who are familiar with Coventry Woods, there's an area, it's mostly woods, of course, but there are a couple of areas, the old Bentley airstrip. That's a very large hayfield now. Well, there's an area adjacent to some of these hayfields that has been completely overrun by Mile a Minute. And actually, I think it used to be other invasive plants, but now Mile a Minute has pretty much smothered everything. And Jay had expressed an interest in going in there and basically cleaning all of that out and replanting, native trees, and potentially, both understory trees as well as larger trees, just to basically reboot for that whole area. I know Patty's very familiar with that area as well. I don't know, Patty, if there's anything else you want to mention as far as Jay's, wish to change that up.
No, it would just be to, it's kind of a gap in a hedgerow.
Right.
So I think he sent me the email also. He was basically just looking to see if the EAC would be willing to collaborate with Parks and Rec and try and come up with a plan and perhaps some volunteer labor. Parks and Rec does have a tree fund, so we would be able to replace the trees commercially. But I think he's, looking for interested parties to help out with that. I think some of it might take John going in there, and with a brush hog or something to start it. But after that, yeah, maybe some all hands on deck sort of volunteer opportunity.
Yes, yeah, it would be a chance to get out in the open and get your hands a little bit dirty if that's something you're interested in. And I'd be very happy to show anyone that area. It's very easy to get there, and we can certainly, walk up there and stay at least 6 feet apart.
My audio was cutting out. You said it was getting overgrown with what?
It's getting overgrown largely with mile a minute.
Mile a minute.
Yeah, I mean,
that area, weren't we also discussing maybe doing some pollinator meadow type planting? You know, I'd like to, we've been doing more research on making meadows and stuff, and you know, a low mow would be the first step, getting, you know, at least some 6 mil tarp and covering it for, you know, 6 weeks to a couple months at a time, making sure all the edges are buried with dirt, coming back in, raking out all the biomass, leaving it open for a couple of weeks, let whatever might germinate, cover it up again, and do cycles like that, and then do the pollinator plantings in the fall would be the most ideal time to plant all the seeds so they get that winter stratification. And then, you know, there's a semi-regular mow plan for the first year, then it tapers down the second year. And then if you do it right, by the third year, you should be able to just let it go. And I'd be happy to help collaborate and start that. If there's some sections there, we can do that.
Well, I think that is, I mean, that's something that we've certainly expressed an interest in. You know, I think what we would need to do is, you know, have a really clear plan of what area you were going to do, how it was going to be done, what we would need from, you know, from John's crew. And then that would have to be a recommendation to the Parks and Recreation Commission, because obviously they're the ones who manage that. I mean, the area that I'm talking about, Justin, is adjacent to what's currently meadow, and what I would propose, you know, someday could be, you know, like a native meadow type area. But it's actually, as Patty mentioned, it's in a hedgerow that actually kind of separates two different areas of meadow. So it's adjacent to, but not exactly the meadow work that we were talking about another time. So I don't know, have you been up there, kind of up at the top where the former sort of runway was, the landing strip?
Just once, but it was a while ago. So I'd need to go up again to refresh my memory. I wasn't sure if we were talking about the same area or not, but you just clarified it's not exactly.
Not exactly. Like I said, it's adjacent. But again, I mean, if that's something that you would like to pursue, I mean, it has come up in the past. You know, take a look up there and really walk around and see, because it's a pretty vast area. But there's some parts of it that are a little bit separated out, but would be, you know, still pretty good sized, and would be worth at least considering. But yeah, it would be, I mean, like I said, it's a large area. It would be a lot of work for sure.
Now, I'm trying to sorry to hijack the meeting here for a minute. I clicked the link in your one email for a Google Doc, but I'm trying to find where that landscaping plan was for the park, and Jesse just emailed you the presentation, the Google slide presentation on the native plants, and I was going to try to upload that to our EAC area for everybody to see if they wanted to. Is there a different link for that, or is there a sign-in for our shared folder for the EAC?
No, everyone should have access. If you've got the link, you should have access to that folder and all the files within it. I will take another look and see and verify that in fact the landscaping plan is there. I was under the impression it was, but if it's not, I will upload it.
The only file I can seem to look at is the council meeting from 121 from the link I followed. So maybe I didn't use the right.
Oh, well, I sent you right. So I sent a link to meeting minutes, but from an earlier email, I sent you a link to the folder so you can view all the documents that are there.
Okay, so I'm just not even in the right spot.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I will do. I will make sure the landscape plan is uploaded there and send around another link so that everyone has access to the folder. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing I can do, if Jessie emailed me the slides for her presentation, I will upload that as well to that folder.
if anybody knows a way to share the speaker notes on a Google slide, please let us know, because we've been trying to figure that out, and it'd be helpful for someone who wasn't able to see a live presentation. If they just had the slide, they could also see what a lot of the main points the speaker was saying that aren't on the slides. We haven't been able to figure that part out yet, so I don't know if anybody's too familiar with Google Slides and how to do that. She doesn't think it's an option to share the speaker notes.
I'm not, but I know someone who is, and can look into that. All right, well, that's all that I had on the agenda. I will, I guess, open it up to see if there are any other business that we need to deal with, or any other comments or questions.
Hey, John, I just got one quick thing. Today, our new future township manager started. Today was her first day. One of her tasks that the board has asked her to do is certainly to reach out to our volunteers and our boards and commissions, and try to serve their needs, see what they, see how she can help and improve communication between the chair people and the township office, and getting them the tools they need to succeed.
Great.
She was, originally the plan was for her to start attending all these meetings and in person, but since that's not possible yet, she will be reaching out and try to meet everybody as soon as we can.
What's her name, Jim?
Her name is Erica Badorf. She's actually a township resident. She lives out in the western portion of the township. She's lived here for several years. She comes from West Vincent Township. She was formerly the township manager for, I think, 3 or 4 years for West Vincent, and she worked in Pottstown Borough prior to that. So she has a lot of experience. Excited about having her get in and start bringing her ways to us, and improving where she sees opportunity. So just FYI on that.
Well, we lost our police chief too.
Yeah, Bob retired and moved on to another job, and Kevin is full out retiring. His last day is the 30th. So after that, Erica will be on her own. So yeah, we got some changes happening in the township building, all for the better.
Yep, I know we're certainly looking forward to getting Erica on board, and like I said, I'll be including her on the invites for this.
Yeah, her email is easy. It's ebadorf@northcoventry.us. So if you want to shoot her an email, please do.
Okay. All right, so that's all I had. Thank you for remembering that, Jim. I had meant to actually mention that, but I slipped my mind.
I did want to bring up one more thing. I know we talked about this a couple times in the past about light pollution. I know we really, one of the main things we focus on is water pollution, water management. Do you think moving forward, the EAC might have the ability to combat light pollution, basically things that violate our light ordinances, and somehow get best lighting practice recommendations out to residents? It's just something that's increasingly catching my eye all the time, because I don't have bad night vision. I think I have very good night vision. So when there's light sources like people's driveway floodlights that come on when a car drives by, one, that's against the ordinance as far as I understand, and two, it shouldn't be pointing across the street. The lights are supposed to be pointing in the driveway. Examples like that. I know there's some business signs that have McCormick Chiropractic comes to mind. I know Leo, I used to play hockey with him, but his sign out front, reading the codes, I understand that the lights for signs are supposed to be illuminated from above, not below, and those signs are right in driver's eyes at that intersection. Things like that. Is that in the scope of EAC to kind of combat light pollution? because I would like to get more involved with that, since it puts a burr under my saddle, it seems.
You know, I mean, I think
that was mostly up to Stan Stubbe. I thought that was his department. Now I know that Justin hasn't connected with him, but wouldn't that be Stan's department?
Stan's our lighting consultant. So I don't. I mean, the recommendations and guidelines that we've done through our ordinance have come through Stan's recommendation. Pat, did Planning Commission work on light ordinance?
Yes, we did. When we were doing the sign ordinance, we kind of brought things up to date using Stan's guidelines.
Yeah.
And I think that it probably is almost as good as we can get, because the county, when they reviewed it, felt that we were too stringent in some areas with our signs and whatever. But I think we've got probably about the best lighting ordinance in the entire area of the county.
Yeah, I mean, we've known Stan for 20 years, certainly, perhaps more.
Right.
And nobody knows more about light and more sensitive about it. But Justin, what I'm hearing you say, it's not really, may not be what the terms of the ordinance is. It's more of an enforcement issue. You're seeing, areas that are being
yes.
that aren't being enforced. So, you know, that's a different discussion, certainly. But if you see violations, you certainly can contact the township and report those, and then code enforcement can go out and take a look at them. Yeah,
I was just wondering if it could be something a little more official coming through the EAC rather than just one resident, as a measure to combat light pollution or unsafe things. Like I think John had forwarded, I gathered information about one new resident that on Cedarville Road, they have their house corner floodlights, these new floodlights they put in, pointing straight down Cedarville. And when they're in their high mode, it's blinding. And that comes up right on a sharp turn before another dangerous curve.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to walk up to a new neighbor and.
No, but you wouldn't have to. You would contact the township, and the code enforcement will go out and make a determination if they're in violation. And if they are, then, you know, normally just ask them to address it. And if they refuse, then it goes further. But I wouldn't want to see EAC taking a position on this against residents, because EAC is an advisory to the board and isn't a board that shouldn't be, you know, targeting specific people. Certainly you as residents can send an email to code enforcement and let them take a look at it. It'll go in, you know, it's confidential to code enforcement. They go out, take a look at it, make a determination, and handle it that way. EAC, if to determine it to be an environmental issue, then the EAC would take a look at the ordinance, make sure that the constraints and regulations in the ordinance are appropriate. But even at that point, it's still becomes enforcement. So if there's failing in enforcement, and you know, obviously there is at times, you know, we just got to put them on notice, and they'll go out and do their job.
Okay, and then that's something pretty easy on the website to look for code enforcement, to email complaints or something?
Yes, there's a form on the, if you go to codes, there's a form on there, contact code enforcement. You can just fill out the form, hit submit, and it'll go right to them.
That's good to know.
Part of the problem, I think, is that in order to know whether you have to enforce it, you have to know whether it's violating the ordinances as far as lumens and that kind of stuff. It requires special equipment. And Stan has that, but you can't really rely on Stan to go running around the township all the time checking that kind of stuff.
No. I mean, Stan is a paid consultant.
I was supposed to meet with him a couple years ago regarding the sign out front of Giant, because that's just way too bright at night. And he was excited to take a look at that because he felt the same way. But our schedules kept not lining up. When he was available, then I wasn't available, and vice versa. And then I think he just got fed up with not being able to meet up about it. And the sign's still too bright, almost like Lenny's towing down there towards the school. That might not be in North Coventry anymore, but that sign's equally bright at night as it is during the day, which should not be the case.
Yeah, Lenny's is in South Coventry. I don't think they have a light ordinance.
They did good though. Their perimeter lighting, which is horrible lighting, like Friendly uses, they actually put in some kind of baffle inside so it wasn't so bad and blocked some of the light going straight out and directed it down. So kudos to them for that. But their sign out front does the same thing the giant sign does. It's super bright during the day and it doesn't reduce its output during the night.
Stan's work is evident over here at Town Square. The lights that are over there and the timing on them. You know, if you pass the Philadelphia outlets at any time after dark, it's like a beacon to the moon. You could see it. But if you look at Town Square and the way those are at night, it's really well controlled and as best as you can probably get it.
Okay, I'll just start logging down the addresses and referencing the codes and sending them to the code enforcement.
Yeah. Perfect.
Something I'm increasingly passionate about anymore.
And Stan might be somebody who has, I've seen him make presentations in the past. He you know, that's something that he does like to address, is the importance of reducing light pollution.
Jim, is Stan available at this time? His wife passed away 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I would suspect he's probably not an essential in an essential job, so probably not. And you know, with his wife passing away, I'm sure he's probably not even working.
She's been sick for a while, but still,
sorry.
you know, with family and everything. I figured he probably would not be available for at least another week or so.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'd be a while before he'll be available. But code enforcement's working, so you know, if you see the violations, code enforcement will certainly go out, and then they're the first line anyway. So you know, they may or may not need Stan's input on an issue.
All right. Any other business?
Just speaking of light pollution, just remember tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night is the peak of the Lyrid meteor shower, which is it's not, you know, the best one of the year, but you should be able to see 10 to 20 meteors an hour from like 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So they'll be out there.
Ah, good to know. And I'm looking out the windows now, and it looks like it might be a clear night. So
a little clear, yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed I can stay up late enough.
It's always my issue. Usually they're the best in the morning. But I guess they said like the northern half of the sky is where they'll be kind of emanating from.
Okay.
In that way.
Good to know.
Yep.
John, the only other thing is if everyone is out socially distancing and exercising in our lovely parks, it's a perfect time to pull garlic mustard. So you can do good and get exercise at the same time.
That's right.
You don't send out a PSA about that for sure. Jesse was doing that earlier in the yard.
So yeah, they come out of the ground very easily. It's very rewarding. So, you know, no permit needed.
All right, there you have it. You have permission from the Parks and Recreation Commission to pull that nasty weed.
It's tasty. It's nutritious.
Garlic mustard.
We put that up on the township website as an emergency PSA.
Worse, do the goats like that? The garlic mustard?
Not much.
No, unfortunately, they don't.
Not very much.
Oh, you guys have goats?
Yeah, they're eating the autumn olive and they're eating the multiflora rose, and they will even eat mila minutes. So they're handy and they'll do their part, but we can always use more help.
especially on the garlic mustard.
Yep.
All right, well, hearing nothing else, I guess I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending. Really appreciate calling in, and it's not the same as getting together and meeting, but at least we can get some things accomplished. So thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank
Stay
you.
healthy.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay well.
Yep, thanks,
Patty,
Jack.
I'm going to give you a call.
Okay.
It's about the goat, so I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.